Welcome back, everybody, to me being at least grumpy about the Wheel of Time, and this is part 2 of Winter's Heart. That's chapters 7, Streets of Camelin, all the way to, I think, chapter 14. Might be chapter 15 now, I'm confused. It's something, the need for a for a bell founder. Something like that? You know what I mean. Never fucking mind. Let's get this started with, shall we? Well, cheers. So yeah, I apologize, my voice is still kind of fucked. That's probably because I spent the weekend singing loud heavy metal songs in Athens, Greece, which is objectively the best place in the world. Anyway, not what we're here for today. What we're here for today is these chapters, and they're all over the place, and we definitely need to talk about the weird voyeurism kind of scene thing going on there and other stuff. So what do we have? We have a lot of, what's her name? Elaine stuff going down in Camelin. Then we have a bit of Rand in Camelin. Then we have everyone else in Camelin. While Rand finally gets to fuck the third girl in his life, because of course he does. It's just part of life. We also get like a nice, fun, convoluted assassination plot that is actually something else. We will see where that will go in the future. Then we just jump around a bit. We get like a Kedswain being a dickhead kind of chapter. We get a bit of like the Evil League of Evil being, well, dickheads to each other and the rest of the world chapter. We get a bit of like a full-on Orientalism with nothing really to add kind of thing going down there. And we get a bit of Matt being pissed off that he has a relationship with a strong woman, I guess, kind of chapter. That is all built up for, yeah, let's build fucking cannons in the future. I think I haven't missed anything. If I have, well, who cares? We will see. Still no news on the Perrin hunting after, like, the bunch of queens captured by the Shido, but we can't have everything all at once, can we? Alright, so let's look at what goes down there, and then I'll try to make some, like, sort of general remarks in a bit. Elaine is trying to hold together the town and get her kingdom back. It doesn't really work that well because, stuff happens. So what we learn is that she got a bunch of captured Damani and Suldams, that weird, like, Master Blaster combination of women that can channel and women that know they can't channel but still can channel and thus control the others because we need that bondage theme, and so it absolutely makes sense that those slave drivers also have cool lightnings on their uniforms and shit, right? Anyway, so she gets settled with all of those by Mazrim Taim, and it doesn't really, give us anything right now, but, it's just there because it has to be. Apparently, she also walked out in the night, for whatever reason, got mugged by someone, and everyone's pissed, because that's how queens fucking behave. Of course they do. All the time. We know that's how that works. Anyway, this is still like, mostly power fulfillment fantasies, so what can you do? It doesn't really matter at all. She's trying stuff. Out of nowhere, she suddenly gets, some element, some like resources found on her property, which will magically help her get all the money from the banks that she wants. This is actually sort of like the second time in the entire books that we learn about the fact that banks actually exist. I assume Robert Jordan knows how the banking system works, or worked, or used to work back in the day. Well, no, I assume he doesn't because, he doesn't understand economy and shit like that. But let's just... Mostly the really fascinating thing is that for these being her, like, hereditary... is that like the right word? Her family's estates And just in the moment when they really desperately need money, they of course find this magical material. I mean, not magical, it's something needed for dyes. I just forgot the word. Who cares, right? But just shitty plotting, right? Whatever. But that's not really the point. The point that we're looking at is that all of that kind of goes down, and then some people try to kill Elaine, seemingly try to kill Elaine, in a bit of a convoluted thing that gets, foiled by someone who is evil. How do we know that? He has a hatchet face. You already know, because Robert Jordan is incapable of describing physical appearance without a value judgment. You already know that that person will be evil. Anyway, it kind of gets, explained and fully shown in like the next chapter, when of course the evil League of Evil meets, and they're like, yeah, it all works. I'm now captain of the guards. Oh, my complex plan for, doing something to Elaine is going to go ahead. So I guess Elaine's in for some kidnapping and humiliation in the near future. But because of stuff that happened later on, I guess Rand can save her, and then we'll all be more happy, because that's just how that shit works in these books. But I'm guessing right now. What we know is that someone set up all these like fake assassins, killed them in front of Elaine to then get the job of captain of the guard. All right, whatever. It comes across as a bit too convoluted, but maybe if you want, or whatever. Seriously. It doesn't really matter. What we then get is another one of those dream sequences when they all meet up with Egwene in fucking Tel Ayan, Riyadh, and instead of actually getting shit done, it's all about whose dress changes into what dress at what time, because that's literally all these dreamland sequences are about. Yes, there's information passed between the people, but mostly it's just so Robert Jordan gets the, for him, I guess, pleasure to describe necklines all the time. What we, however, learn is that several other people are spying on them. One of them is someone who looks like Rand, at least a bit. And what? I assume that is Slayer or Lord Luke, or whatever his name is. Just assume. It could be someone else. Who knows? The other one we get explained later on is one of the three... Well, it's one of three or four of the Black Aja sister from way back when, who used another one of those ter'angreal. So, well, because what we also learn, remember when I talk about like how the evil League of Evil is always fighting each other? Yeah, there's at least 2 Dark Friend plots going down in Caemlyn right now. Of course there are. Nevertheless, that's all we get from this, like, first part of the story. Yes, it's slowed down to no end, but whatever. Seriously, I don't mind that so far. It just, gives Robert Jordan a lot of time to fail at actually providing information in a meaningful way. And there's one reason why that is the case that we're going to talk about after I've been pissed off about Cadsuane for a bit later on. What we then get is the switch to our buddy, what's his name? Rand al'Thor. He shows up in magical disguise, which needs to be made clear is hideous, because remember what I said about like judgment, like value judgments and whatnot? Robert Jordan is incapable, like thinks in 2 categories, or maybe 3. He thinks in like ugly, stunningly beautiful, and motherly. Maybe fatherly exists for men. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think I have encountered it yet. But most of people are either beautiful, sometimes boyishly beautiful, sometimes voluptuously beautiful, because it's usually women, or men are handsome, or they're like ugly. And I have a problem with the fact that they like Beautiful and ugly should not be used as physical descriptions in books. It just doesn't work well. We need to have a separate talk about that, because I think there's a lot to be said about like why this sucks. However, he is very, very ugly, so no one recognizes he's Rand. He walks in, goes to Nynaeve to drop off his like super magic triggers, those like Terangrial from way earlier. Remember the two, like the woman and the man kind of thing? And wants to, enlist Nynaeve to help him cleanse the male part of the source with those two things. He thinks that'll work. Is that the case? Who the fuck knows? We'll find out when it happens. In the meantime, Min just runs off to Elaine and Avienda, and they do the thing that we always knew they would do, which is they confront Rand, all three together. And then we have the everyone loves everyone scene. Nynaeve, Elaine, not Nynaeve, like Nynaeve is sitting next to it, is like, ooh, you be crazy. This is immoral kind of thing. So yeah, well, Rand confesses his love to all three. All three confess their love to Rand, and they all walk off into the sun, not to the sunset, into a different room to do the weird thing, which is bonding, which becomes like, I don't know. I thought this was like bonding was special, but this book alone has already had like so many people bonding around like all the time. It's like, the fuck's going on, man? Anyway, what they do is they do like a triple bond. He tells them that Alana bonded him, and they're like, yeah, fuck her. We'll just do it now. We'll do it all together. They kind of make whatever, because magic thing, that makes Min part of the bond, even though she's not one of the people who can use magic. But whatever. That's just what happens. So they are now all aware of his strength and love and all the pain he's suffering for them, the world, and everything. Which, look, the idea of the man being a man being the strong, dark, silent type. I know it's a trope, but the way it's overplayed here is like, oh, I did not believe all the pain you are suffering. Man, but you're so strong that you can bear up with it. Fuck's sake. Just don't lay it on that thick, man. I don't know. It's just ridiculous at this point. Like, yeah, Rand is suffering. He's doing a dangerous job. He's behaving like a dickhead at the same time, but whatever. He's suffering. Sure, other people are also suffering, but apparently in this case, it's just how that works. And then they walk away, and Elaine finally gets laid, which is important for some reason. And because the others share those bonds, everyone is aware of how insanely good their sex is. Which, good for them. I'm happy for them. I'm just like, the way the scene is written is more like just cringy. I mean, I don't know. But what it ends up with is everyone else gets hammered because they can't stand the sheer sexual arousal in Elaine's brain. And here's something that I'm wondering about. It's like, so what's the problem, right? So you have already decided that at least men can have more than one woman, which, fine by me. I'm totally for whatever relationship model works for you. You go ahead, knock yourselves out. The interesting bit is that apparently it is still, like, weird for them to be aware of Rand having sex with someone else, like one of the three. And also, why aren't they just like all doing it together? The fuck? I mean, why not? Knock yourself out. You've just celebrated your magical marriage kind of thing with your bonding, so why don't you all do something to each other? Have fun, really. I don't know. But it's a small bit. It just mostly annoys me mildly because of the very, like, weirdly extreme depiction of Rand as this super strong, suffering male. And I use the word male here because it fits sort of like the viewing of the whole thing. And it's super male-centric because he gets to get like 3 girls. And even though they're like all in love with him and have accepted to share him, it's a sharing, right? It's not that they have like a whole thing together. No, it's like they kind of share Rand out. They're all secretly still jealous of every other one of the three getting to get it on with Rand, and that I think is what makes this kind of not bad, but annoying in a way. It's like if you want to portray more than your like so far standard heterosexual like way of having these like eternal like marriages because everyone gets married in these fucking books, right? Instead of having that and having Rand break the mold there, so to speak. It is a Rand who breaks the mold, which is already a weird way to look at it because at the end of the day, it's the three girls deciding that they want to do this. But then it still basically becomes monogamous. Just with like this time sharing or car sharing or dick sharing in this case kind of model where it's like, now it's her turn to get Rand, and now it's her turn to get Rand, and maybe they'll like, make up a rotor and just like sharing. I have no idea. But it becomes essentially just a male like fantasy where Rand gets to, fuck three different girls whenever he pleases, and they have to deal with the fact that maybe he's just in the mood for the other ones, and I don't know. I would prefer something more equal when it comes to these kind of things. Well, apparently it's not what we're getting. So yeah, that's the big deal. And then Rand moves off to do whatever and leaves a lily that then Elaine gets to magically preserve with some kind of magic as a sign of his love. And whatever. You think that's good, then that's good, I guess. I don't know. It's literally not a big deal. I just felt it felt gratuitous in this weird way where it's so much, even though it's all written through the female perspective, it's narrated by the female narrator, it's all written through their perspective, not Rand at all. It still feels male gazy, and that's sort of what I find weird. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just found it kind of cringy. I don't know, but sexuality and sex scenes are always the hardest thing to write, so I will not give Robert Jordan too much shit for this because maybe he just doesn't hit my taste there. It's fine. No worries. The interesting bit there is like sort of the oversharing thing with Waters, right? Where it is that Elaine does this without talking to what's her name, Brigida, and then she just like gets it on with Rand, and because of that weird mind bond of like water and whatnot, Brigida has basically to ride a shotgun in Elaine's brain, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, technically, Elaine is supposed to be able to, mask that off, so Brigida doesn't have to suffer through it, but she conveniently doesn't do it, so we get the scene where, Brigida is pissed off and whatnot. Rightly so. Rightly so. So yeah, that's the big thing. The non-threesome, like the mind threesome, or whatever. It's not that much of a deal, I guess. Now let's look at the other bits and pieces that I think we should have us a look at. And that's the Cadsuane chapter and the Evil League of Evil chapter, although the Evil League of Evil bit is not that interesting. The Cadsuane part, however, is interesting for a bunch of reasons. So the overall part of that story is we get it from Cadsuane's perspective, which is weird, but whatever. She's sitting there loading it over everyone, using everyone as tools because that's what she has to do and so forth. And she gets away with it. And here we once again hit that big problem of Robert Jordan having shitty world building and using tell, don't show. Because what we have is that we always get told that Caswain is so powerful, but we never get any fucking explanation. So she just like behaves like an absolute asshole towards the sea folk people and just orders them around and everything. And the sea folk people do it. It's like, why? Why the actual fuck are they doing that? You know, they try to keep as far away from the White Tower as possible. They are their own people that don't technically acknowledge the Aes Sedai or their power. They don't allow Aes Sedai on their boats. They can do all of that. And then they just like let Cadsuane, you know, bully them around for whatever fucking reason. Like, I don't get it. And it's the big problem is like so many times in these books, Robert Jordan tells us, flat out tells us, something is the case. This person is intelligent. And then they behave like fucking morons all the time. And yeah, that doesn't work. If you use tell, don't show and just make statements about stuff, your continual text, your descriptions need to bear that out, because otherwise I will not trust any of those statements anymore. It just doesn't work that way. And it's exactly what we see here once again with Cadsuane. As I said, like, she behaves like an absolute asshole and gets away with it. And there's no reason given of why she can get away with it, apart from just like sheer brazen bravado. Now, yes, we know Robert Jordan, being the conservative guy he is, as a writer at least, really has a hard-on for everyone who just brazenly bullies people and uses their sheer, like, leader, soul, or whatever you want to call it, leadership qualities, which seem to be an asshole. I mean, you know, just overalls everyone with their sheer machismo, even if they are a woman. Although I still expect Cadsuane to get her comeuppance sooner or later, because I guess technically everyone in these books gets overtime, except Rand, because, you know, Rand is Superman. So yeah, that's a huge problem right there. Then there's a bunch of other issues that we need to talk about here. Seems Cadsuane used what she calls blackmail, in her own, you know, thoughts, to force those three good warders, Dahmer Flynn, whatever his name was, the healing guy, the guy with bells in his hair? No, not that one, a different one. Like the three ones that were still like nice and loyal to Rand, and I forgot their names because who fucking cares? Something Hobwell, probably. You know, Bennett. As I said, who cares? Yeah, force them to be bonded as warders by some of her, some of her gang Aes Sedai. And once again, even if she asked nicely and they consented, if they consented under the pressure of blackmail, it still is fucking rape. Yes, mind rape, but still, it is that. Seems to be okay, because once again, ends justifying means and shit like that, right? I guess so. It just annoys me to no end. Although, apparently we've already reached the point where, because those are strong men, as women are kind of doing, or following along what their warders want. We will see where this is going in the future, but I just wanted to point out that once again, we have a lot of like non-consensual bonding going on in these books right now, and I'm not sure, well, I mean, I don't think Robert Jordan really thought hard about it. He's just really in favor of people sort of being forced to do shit by other people. He just really gets it on for that. And especially with the bonding stuff, there seems to be like literally seems to be a sexual component to it all the time. Like, whatever, really. I want to point out where we get our first mention of same-sex. Well, it's not marriage yet. We have we have a lesbian couple in there, apparently. Hard to say why, but they found out that that Windfinder girl and that like noblewoman that Rand dragged around with her with him like during like war for no really good reason, and then kind of tied both of them up in the room. They were getting it on for some reason. No one knows what reason, but they were getting it on. No value judgment there, but since they are now in prison, I guess. But, we'll see where that is going. Fine for Bobby J to actually acknowledge that such a thing exists. Not outright condemning it or having terrible things happen to those people yet, apart from being, confined and whatnot. But, you take the small things in these books. You take the small things. Anyway, the chapter ends, that part ends with Alana being knocked out. Because, I guess, Rand has now 3 women bonding him. Like, 3 more women bonding him. And this one at a time, it's consensual. So, poor Alana has to get, like, all Rand's, like, Rand's side of like getting it on with Elaine and stuff, and doesn't really like it because remember, because Rand is Superman, he totally fucking dominates the shit out of that water bond, which is fucked up. It is still fucked up. I'm sorry to say, it's still not good. It is still terribly bad, really, and we get more of that here. There's like more of like other ones trying to become of the more Aes Sedai, willingly submitting to Rand, and we will see where all of that is going. But frankly, it just so much of it seems so unnecessary and ridiculous at this point. They're just like playing around at being assholes to each other, so Robert Jordan gets like reasons to prolong his series because the big battle that needs to happen, and Rand needs to beef up a bit more, so we have like everyone running circles around him, and he gets more magical power and shit going. I don't know. Mostly I'm pissed off about the fact that we really get all these like descriptions that then don't bear out anything, because we're, it's like all of these things are statements of fact. They're always statements of fact because of the way he writes them, and he never backs any of them up. It's literally just bad writing in that point. It's like, Cadsuane is all-powerful. Why the fuck? Just believe me on this one. Everyone has respect for her. She has to be. Even the people that don't know her or don't know who she is, because, they're not Aes Sedai, and they don't have like all this, oh, she was so cool back in the day and whatnot. They don't know that, but she still bullies them around and gets away with it. It's like, why the fuck? If some woman or some man, whatever, just with no actual reason whatsoever would just like walk into like a king's palace, take over a room, hold court there, that just doesn't go down. Dude, just give some fucking reason apart from she's just like really cheeky. And if that's the argument, then at least have people sometimes question why they're doing it. So yeah, once again, Cadsuane, terrible character, doesn't make any sense, apart for, Robert Jordan's kink with like domineering women that then get like humiliated later on, most of the time. Let's move on to other not-so-good stuff. There is, the whole, like, evil League of Evil sitting around, plotting against each other, figuring out what's going down. We get more of Asangar, who, I still have forgotten which one of the chosen ones they are before, our trans predator, because of course, it's important to once again point out that now that our character is in a female body, they're still, male because they use the male side of the power, so even all their transition did not change fundamentally that they are dudes and using dick magic, which is wrong and highly problematic. But there we are. So obviously, apart from, being the kind of person that secretly murder women, which they did in the last book, remember that, they're also very much about flaunting their new female body all around because they're secretly perverts at heart. And it's just so unnecessary. It's just so cheap, right? Why can't a bunch of evil people just sit down, have an actual, planning meeting, get shit done? No, instead they need to behave as cheesily evil as possible. And obviously, showing a lot of leg is, scandalous and evil. And it's exactly what that guy, who is now in a female body, but be aware he's still like a guy because he still uses dick magic, would do with that female body because he's evil. And you get my drift. And the way that in this regard, like, sexual morality is tied back in to what is at the end of the day a very clear, like, cut good and evil separation, right? Is shitty. Don't do that kind of crap, right? Please. So yeah, not much more going down there, apart from the question of, like, who's the girl at the side of our Purba of Moradin, who I assume is Ishamael, but who knows who the woman is. Like, maybe she's Lanfear reborn, maybe not. Maybe she's Moiraine being compelled with that weird soul prison thing that Moradin is carrying around with him. Maybe she's not. Who knows? We will find out anon, or maybe not, in the whatever future. What else did I miss? Some rather unimportant, I guess, Nynaeve trying to teach, or, being beat up, magically beat up by the sea folk people, just to, give us a bit more of, like, dominating around. And then we have that scene that, like, for whatever reason, one of the sea folk girls really wants to be an Aes Sedai, and I'm like, but why? Why the fuck do you want to be an Aes Sedai? We have seen nothing yet that explains why people would want to become Aes Sedai, especially if you're from a culture that has their own magic school and whatnot. There's no benefits to being an Aes Sedai, apart from being, part of, like, a cool, like, one, like, color-coded gang. In that case, I don't know. It just feels weird, and I think it's once again tied into that whole, like, that we just get, like, statements in this, like, tell-on show kind of way. It's like, Aes Sedai are powerful, women want to be Aes Sedai, and other women fear them, and everyone fears them. And you're like, you can tell me that everyone fears Aes Sedai all the fucking time, Bobby J, but unless you give me one good reason why people fear Aes Sedai, I stop believing at some point. Sorry, it just doesn't work anymore. So yeah, there's other weird bits about, like, Robert Jordan not understanding economy, and of course it's good that all these, like, refugees all get the chance to start their, businesses, and suddenly everything will work out. How, in, like, something that is still not more than a couple of months, people can actually, get the funding from those banks that suddenly have magically appeared, because I guess we're talking economy now, have the money to do all of that, build their shops, glass factories being put up and everything in the fucking winter, or before that, time just doesn't exist in these books. Anyway, let's talk about the last two bits, shall we? The main one here was Hidden Behind the Veil, the chapter about Tuon something, I guess. A princess of the Shanchan who is coming towards Ebudar. We know what will happen in the near future. That is obviously she'll get to meet Matt and they'll get to fuck, because she is the daughter of the 9 moons. Apart from that, there's not much going down in that chapter. We're basically just introduced to her as a noblewoman from the mysterious Shanchan. And that's actually like the thing that I want to focus on here, is because once again it showcases a lot of these attributes of Orientalism. Like the Shanchan are exotic. How do we know they are exotic? They are exotic because they use a shit ton of invented words. They have exotic looking, beauty standards and stuff. Shaving their skulls, having these effeminate looks of long, fingernails and stuff. All these aspects that combine with tyranny, rigid structure, and slavery. And yeah, that adds up to a lot. You have effeminate people, although in this case our character is female, so that's probably not the right word to use. But still, it still holds because it's kind of like the general thing there going on. Right? Their women are extremely powerful. Read it back in Herodotus and stuff, right? It's always been there. So it's effeminate, tyranny, because, the Empress decides all of that. It's rigidly structured down. You have people like the Death Watch, cool name, even outside of 40k. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool. And if something happens, the entire guard will be killed, because that's how that shit works. These kind of aspects to it. Then you have the way they use chattel slavery and sell people and so forth. It all just adds up. But I want to look at the fact that outside of the Shanchan and minimally the Aiel, we just use plain English. And with those two, but especially with the Shanchan, to denote the exoticism, that's where we use tons of words that are made up fantasy language words. And there's no need to do that, because the person through whose mind we're seeing this is Shanchan. She will think, we're in her stream of consciousness, and if she thinks in English, then she will use English fucking words for stuff. So yeah, that's just where I once again feel like bad writing is a huge part of it, because the entirety of this chapter, one entire chapter, is to say, here's this young character, she's smart. She's very smart. She is often underestimated because of her looks. And she is the daughter of the Nine Moons, and she may become a threat to Rand. Because she's destined to make the Dragon Reborn kneel. And she's heading towards Ebudar. We already know that she's going to end up with Matt because she's the daughter of the Nine Moons and so forth. And that's the entirety of this chapter. The rest is to display the weird, the exoticness of the exoticness of the Shanchan with those weird words, the overindulgent, the longer scene on how they treat the Domani, all of that. It's just, it's disgusting because it's unnecessary. It's the same way you go and watch the 300 movie and see Xerxes and his gang being portrayed in these almost inhuman ways. It's literally goes in the same direction, and that's why the Shanchan are such a egregious example for Orientalism in fantasy. And yeah, it annoys me. But apart from that, she's coming to Ebudar, so I guess time for our buddy Matt to become short one queen. So yeah, cue Matt. He's at the circus. Yes, that circus, that old one from Luca. He's hanging around because he's trying to steal horses, or not steal horses, but secretly get out of the kingdom, because he's still the lover of the queen, the somewhat unwilling lover of the queen. And apparently, if men are unhappy with a relationship, they get to actually leave in some way or other. Until then, it also seems to be mostly about the fact that this time around, Matt is not the stronger person in that relationship. But mostly we spend the time with him sitting there with our Illuminator, Aludra, and talking about how to build cannons. We'll find out about those cannons, I guess, relatively soon. But once again, ties in with that idea that I spoke about earlier. The fact that suddenly, once our couple of heroes apply themselves, Technological progress will happen out of nowhere, and just no one thought about it for the last 3,000 years. Or 2,000 years, or whatever, right? No one thought about it. Humanity is just like slowly dying away, and then three good guys show up, and suddenly, science, cannons, steam engines. Crazy, isn't it? And that's just not how technological progress works, unfortunately. But we already established the fact that Robert Jordan has no idea when it comes to like how to build a setting, how to look at history and shit like that. It just doesn't happen. He wants steam engines now. He gets steam engines. I'm fine with it. I like steam engines. I like cannons. It's cool. The fact that there's once again like the sexual component, apparently nothing gets done without at least two people flirting in these books is just, I don't know, a bit weird, but maybe that's just how things were done back when these books were. Oh wait, this is like end 90s. But yeah, basically that's what we get at the end of this book, this chapter. And, we're heading back to Ebudar, and I guess the big meeting between Matt Coffin and the Daughter of the Nine Moons. And where that will lead is anybody's guess. I just, overall, once again, the larger plot line for this book works well for me so far. It's the bits and pieces on the side that really fucking annoy me. All these, things that we've always talked about, and I'm coming to the point where it's like, I feel like a broken fucking record, because all I can do is tell you, yeah, this is fucking sexist, this is misogynist, this is not how consent works, this is not how the world works, this is wrong, and it's bad writing, and yeah, which is sad, because there's such cool ideas there. There's people riding dragons. Awesome. People building, people riding dinosaurs. Fuck yeah. People building steam engines. All right. I'm on board with all of that. It's really cool. I like that. It's the other bits that I don't like. And the way the execution sucks so much. So yeah, this is the halfway point. We'll see how the rest can deliver. Will the source be cleansed? Will Matt get laid with someone he has to actively pursue? How will the rest work out? We will find out tomorrow and the day after. And then we'll move on to whatever comes next, which I assume is Crossroads of Twilight. So yeah, let's keep it all going. I'll see you around. Have a great one. Cheers.